Welcome to Center Heist Productions. Please hit the likes and subscribes down below in the right-hand corner. It is September 25th, the morning after last night's exhibition preseason game with the Devils that were in town. Now, remember, they brought in a much weaker squad than even we had. We had a weaker squad too, but we had our first line there. They didn't have their first line there. Take that into consideration. So we're going to talk about this game. Let's get to the stats and get those out of the way. I'm going to make another tape because I'm going to bring up a very valid point. And anyway, we're going to get it. 3-0 was the final score. Great performance by Sam Montembeault. Great performance from Hughes. Wow, this guy shocked me. Montreal's goaltending is looking good. And I'll say all four performances, I consider the goal that was taken back to count in my books against Primo. So if that being said, he's the only one that allowed a goal. They all looked good, but those three didn't allow a goal. So that looks good for Laval with Dobish and Hughes. And they can always be brought up, both of them. So, and I wouldn't mind Montreal giving them a look. Anyway, 3-0 was the score. We got our Pizzetta got the first goal on Allen. Allen looked really good for Jersey. Dawes didn't look so sharp as his replacement. As two more goals were scored, Suzuki getting one assisted by Trudeau. And and Pezzi gets the open net again. So really, here's the summary. Michael Pizzetta was the first star with 2 goals and a +2. William Trudeau had 2 assists, +2. And Beck 1 assist, +1. First period, no scoring, and we were flat in the first period, to tell you the truth, and too many penalties in the early going for us in that first period. Things started to turn the corner in the second. No scoring in the second, or actually in the second, there was scoring. 2:42, Michael Pizzetta assisted by Simoneau, who looked all right as well. William Trudeau had a good, strong game. Those guys assisted him. That was our only goal, and that was the only goal on Allen. Third period came Nick Suzuki at 15:07, scores assisted by William Trudeau, which was a nice redirection shot. Well, the pass to him, and he just clearly outmaneuvered Dawes easily and put it in the right place. Just smart. And then we had Pizzetta with the empty netter assisted by Beck. Now, for me, the best player of the game in my book was Beck. That's for me. I don't care that Pizzetta got 2 goals. Beck stood out to me and looked really good. Now, there's a lot to be said. Now, we're still going with the stats here. 24 shots to Montreal's 29. Hits 21-18 for Jersey. Faceoffs 24-20 for Montreal. Power plays 0 for 6 for Jersey, 0 for 8 Montreal. The power play is not looking good. It just looks like there's a lot of work to be done. It looked better against Philly. Of course, they were a weaker team. 16 penalty minutes for Jersey, 12 for Montreal, and I think we got to clean that up a bit. And it's our kids who seem to be taking a bit more. Lopezetta had one too. Giveaways 18 for Jersey, 22 for Montreal, too high. That's got to clean up. Takeaways 5-4 for Montreal, block shots 8-6 for Montreal. And I'm not going to go over the summary of the penalties, just that's not necessary in this one. So with that being said, I just said Beck was the best player in this game by far in my books. Pizzetta had a strong, and this is why we can't replace Pizzetta. There is a big problem here, and that's why Pizzetta is the perfect guy for the first line of rolling in and rolling out, being, alternated, is because he brings something that no other forward has, and that's that sandpaper. Otherwise, you'd be able to replace them. Until we get guys that start playing with some sandpaper, some grit to their game. And I do think that should be something Montreal looks into, that we got to get grittier, because teams, a lot of teams in the NHL, special teams that go into the playoff battle, you have to be grittier than we are. We got a great looking offensive side to us, and that's great that we're improving talent wise. But I think we got to teach some grit to all of our players, as to get them on that page, that they just need to they need to be a little more physical, because they're going to run into that. and it would make a difference. So that's why Pizzetta, you can't trade him. Other than that, you could. Good on him, though. I was proud that he got 2 goals, unsung hero a lot of nights. Although, I hope to see improvement compared to last year, because 2 years ago he looked better than last year. But anyway, good to see on this. But although he carries that, like I just said, that one ingredient, no, and even that's the ingredient Florian Jackie's got to improve on. And Jackie, to me, out of all the kids, is one of the weakest links at the moment. And it's not a knock against him because he just got drafted a year ago, and we knew his game was farther behind as far as in where he was, and it's moving forward. But I think he looks lost in that center role to me. But I think it can be rescued in development in Laval. I think that a year in Laval could help him immensely under Pascal. I think they could work on this because we did see a vision in the rookie series against Toronto that one line was the best line, and it was Thorpe, Tuck, and Jacki. But Thorpe by far was the best player on the whole team in that series, and then Beck and Heineman. But with saying all that, and Kapanen wasn't at the rookie part of it. At saying that, his center skills, when you watch him, he looks lost. I'm sorry. There's portions of that defensively, and he doesn't have. He's not bringing the physicality he needs to bring, because that's supposed to be going to be his charm if he gets on the Habs. And that's, we got to say it as it is. He's not there yet. He needs some development. It's not to say he can't be. I'd like to see him as that fourth line I just mentioned. Although you got Beck in the fix there too, that could end up taking that center role. So that's problematic for Jacki in that regard. That's why I say he might have to be a winger. But anywho, that being said, I think there's only 3 to 4 guys that should be left in training camp out of the youngsters, and that should be Kapanen, Beck, Heineman, and Barry Brule. Now that doesn't mean that and Tuck. I'd keep Tuck around, and maybe Jared Davidson. Now, however, I think Tuck and Jared Davidson are a little bit behind. That they could be call-ups from Laval. Because I do think Tuck could make the team in the future. I don't see that for Jared Davidson because there's just too much talent. I do think he can be a great AHLer and a good call-up player. But I do see that Tuck, like we just mentioned, could be part of a future fourth liner. He's got some grit to his game and size. He just needs to use it more as well. He uses it more than Jacki. Florian really needs work on that because that's supposed to be his bread and butter. And last night, I just found McDermott ran wild on Montreal. And Montreal took too many penalties early on. And I do think, weighing out the talent in this, I do think that we had 2 lines look better than the lines in this game, in game 2. Now, they had a tougher opponent, but that, with Jersey compared to Philly. But I'll say this, that we got to remember, we had our first line there. Jersey didn't. I don't even think Jersey had their second line there. So that's saying something. Can't get into the penalty trouble that we had in the first period, though. That reared itself in both games. That's something we got to take care of. We are playing more responsible in our own end. That's a good sign. But for me, defense war, everybody else needs to go back. Other than Hudson's is the leader. Mailloux is probably next, but I can't even. That's hard because Reinbacher looked a lot better last night. He was where I seen Mailloux do a little running around last night. I found Mailloux looked a little better against Flyers. Reinbacher didn't do that running around. He brought a little more physicality, and he was good with his stick, good positional. So that's why it brings him up in the equation. I think Barron's losing that battle. Sorry to say that when the physicality, even with Philly, started coming on, you started seeing that's the part of his game that's lacking, and it started showing. And to me, that's why he's trade bait. You got to move him, and I say we got to move him because we got to start opening the door and not holding back because there's to me, Oki Jokinen was right. Kapanen's ready, and he should be there. And I think we know we're going to be moving Dvorak on, and that should be his job right there. Third line. I think he's got so much talent. If the show continues to show this way, I just think Jokinen's onto something. This guy looks like NHL material, and he's got an offensive side to him, as well as being good in the face-off department and responsible defensively. He's my number one guy. Beck's right behind him, and Beck is ready, I think, as well, on the cusp. And I think those two guys, I would open the door and make moves to bring them in. That's me. And I think Dvorak's got to go. You know he's got to go. You might as well get rid of Barron because on the back end, he's going to be the guy that's looking like the guy you got to move, period. You can't put him on waivers or you're going to lose him. And to me, instead of leaving him as the seventh defenseman and where you need to make some moves to open up space on the roster, I would move him. That's just me. I think I'm also in the party of we've heard certain reporters state that where Johnny Goodrow was lost in Columbus, that they're talking to Montreal. That's what we're hearing. I don't know if there's any truth to it. It could be, and who knows? I don't know. But the words were they were looking at Gallagher and Anderson at two different articles. If that be the case, I make that move because Gallagher, he was invisible last night. Now I know Galley is naturally always has a slow start. So I got more credit for Galley than I do Anderson. But if a trade was offered, would I move him? Yes. Because we got kids knocking and we got to stop holding them back now. Some of them are ready. And I love that Kapanen line. Even Heineman looked like Heineman again. I haven't seen that out of Hyman since 2 years ago when we thought he was ready then. We've been waiting for him to show up again or saying he's a bust. Well, he looks like he's back. And he looks like maybe him being put with Kapanen and Barre Brule. Well, him and Kapanen, Heineman and Kapanen had such chemistry. Um, wow, he's back. So I think that for me, I love that line. I wouldn't hesitate to move four players out from Montreal right now to make space. And we got to stop with this theory that the reporters are running wild. And I know Montreal's management said to be in the mix, and we can be in the mix still, but we're still going into our fourth year of the rebuild. Let's be realistic. We're fifth from the bottom. Now, I see us moving in the right trajectory to about eighth from the bottom or 12th from the bottom. Within that window, that's that's moving forward. And that is to be expected if we're realistic. But to be in the running for a wild card when you got three or four teams that are ahead of us in the rebuild in our conference, not going to happen, guys. Let's be real. It's great to keep being positive. It's great. Lane's a big positive. Doc being back, if he can stay healthy, is a positive. But that's a band-aid line. That second line for Montreal's a band-aid line. All of them are injury prone, so they all got to prove that. We'll be seeing. They look great. Other than I would prefer Roy in the position of Newhook, and Newhook dropped to the third line. That's my opinion because he's technically a third liner, and Roy's got more IQ, and I think he would actually um, assist and complement the other two much better. That's just because his IQ's up there. That's just my thought. Sorry, for me, Newhook didn't look he didn't stand out on that line. He just looked like that we could have a better piece on the second line. Now I know he could. We all think he's going to be they'll go with it, and of course they'll gel a bit more. I still think Waugh's a better fit. That's just me. Anyway, that's my opinion. However, I think we got to wake up, and while we're still in the rebuild, stop holding back our kids now. We got a few of them ready. Let's make room for Kapanen in Dvorak's placement. Let's move off Anderson, who's never going to fit, even though he played better against Philly, a weaker team, and Waugh made him look good. But he's still credit to him, but he's never going to fit overall. He's a guy that could help another squad and be a veteran. Let's move him on and take half of his salary if we have to. Even throw in a draft pick. I don't care what it is. Move him on. Galley, if you get offered, move him on. You got to open these spots up. It's time. It's time. We can't move off of Pizzetta. Pizzetta can still keep that role of being the extra piece that can be rotated into the fourth line. He can still have that role. But for me, I'm making space for Kapanen. I'm making space for Beck. I'm making space for Heineman. And I would be even to the point where we're making space for Barry Brule. And Tuck is close. And Jared Davidson will be a good call-up guy. But I think Tuck can be a call-up guy too for injuries as well. Those two they got to go back. But they're the next ones after those guys. But Jack Eye, by no stretch of the imagination, has a lot of work to do in developing his game. He's got to realize that he is supposed to be the sandpaper, and if he's supposed to be more of a gritty player than Pizzetta, and he's not. So, and he's young. He's young. So let's give him credit. He can learn. He can develop under Pascal, no problem. Vincent Pascal. I just think that's where he's at, and I think we all kind of knew that. We might have put him higher up as being a threat in training camp. He's not a threat. He is probably at the bottom of the group. In that group, the lower scale of the rookies. So Meshar, same thing. Meshar, Meshar looked good, but just not good enough to crack the line. Sorry. A good year in Laval will do him some good. If he'll ever be a Hab, I don't know. He might be a good trading piece down the road. Pending. Let's give him some time. He's got glimpses, but I just think there's a lot of talent that's ahead of him. Kapanen, we have to make space. He deserves a spot on this team, and I think management's got to make a move now. Make the space. That kid deserves to be on the team. Beck deserves to be on the team as far as I'm concerned. He had a good, strong game last night. He was my forward. Trudeau, it's unfortunate, had a strong game, but there's too many guys ahead of him. He's Laval material, or you got to put him in a package and trade him. I think he'd be good for Laval if he is willing that, but whatever. They got some good pieces on defense, but we know it's Hudson, Mayu, and Reinbacher. And those three might all be ready to be a part of maybe something that's rotational. I don't think Hudson will be thrown into a rotation because I honestly think I've seen better movement from him quarterbacking the power play the other night than I see from Matheson. And I think Matheson knows that. This kid's flash, got moves that are different. And he has that Markov Subban type of look and play. So I think he's our next guy for that. And I think they should move Matheson down to the second power play and let Hudson run with that first power play. That's where he can gain his time. I do, however, think it would be an advantage if Montreal somehow would put Savard and Hudson on a third pairing and move Jack-Eye and let's say Mayu or Reinbacher, however you want to do that, as a pairing, and the extra guy be rotated. And it could be, you could move around the second and third pairing because they're still young. You could rotate it around a bit and keep those guys as a 7 defenseman type thing. And that way you got Reinbacher there too. Or you send him to Laval. It's whichever way you feel. Although, you got decisions to make. I just think the forward group has shocked us, where we've got about 3 to 4 guys that Three of them, I think they should make space for. Fourth, you could debate. You could debate because Barry Burley would be a good veteran for Laval, but he sure. I would love to see that line stay in Montreal and be our third line. I'd really like to see that. And the only thing you'd have to do is you could have Barry Burley go back to Laval, and you could have Waugh in that spot or Newhook. Now, like I say, I would rather see Waugh get a shot now with Lonnie and Doc and see what happens with that, and put Newhook with Kapanen and Heineman. I think that's what I see. Or you get to rotate Newhook and Waugh from the second and third line. But I honestly think that's the way they should go, and I wouldn't mind keeping Brule in the mix, and you figure out something with that other, with Evans being still there for the if you could move. That's if you could move Anderson, Gallagher, and Dvorak and Barron, because I think we should move them. Find a way. Barron's going to be a sought after defenseman anyway, his type, because he's going to be good. Kid yourself not. It's just that we got so much depth there, and we got better guys, but we got to pick the best from the crop. So he's going to be good, and he should drag in something, to tell you the truth. Out of all four of them, I think he should drag in the most. With the other three, I just would move them. I think they're not a part of the future. None. Now Galley's a good veteran for, he'll come on as a season, but if you could move him, if someone wants him, do it. I just don't think we should hold back the kids. That's my opinion. Sticking with it, I just think Kapanen really, that's the guy I'm 100%. He's my first guy. Beck's my next guy because Beck plays a great 200-foot game and really good defensively. I enjoyed that. And, Kapanen's got a good defensive game, except he's got a really awesome um, offensive touch. The way he moves with the puck just blew my mind the other night. The way he was moving the puck on the boards, and just they couldn't keep up with him, and his IQ was so much more advanced. And I think he's got an offensive IQ that's higher than Beck's offensive. I laughed at Eric Engels' article that I read this morning that, the goaltenders, if the goaltenders wouldn't have made outstanding saves on Beck last night, now, and Beck I picked as the best forward. Those shots he had were not anything fancy. They wouldn't have gone in. So please, and I've been agreeing with Eric lately with a lot of this stuff on Tony's show, but those comments right there, that's a bunch of crap. He shot the puck right to the goalie's pads, and his other shots when he had opportunities that other guys would have buried those shots or would have had a better shot placement of the puck. He just doesn't seem to. I think that's the one thing Beck has to work on, is his shot, because it's right one shot was directly into the body. The other shot was Decker directly in the pads. So there was no if the goalie didn't stand on his head. The goalie didn't even have to move for his shots. They were directly at him. And that's my knock against Beck's game. He doesn't have the offensive side, IQ wise, or talent. Maybe it's the hands that Kapanen has. Now Kapanen has that ingredient. Even, I'd say, yeah. So even with that, so that being the case, it's not a knock because he's good at everything else. But I think he's going to be more effective as a fourth line player, in my opinion. Fourth line center. Although you got to figure out how you're going to do that. Are you going to put him in, you know what I mean? How are you going to work that? Are you going to work him in with Evans and, however but you got to move on those players first. But I think we're making a huge mistake if we don't let Kapanen be a part of this team, Beck be a part of this team, and I would even say Heineman, because Heineman, it looks like, is back to Heineman of 2 years ago. If we can see that again out of Heineman, he should be up there too. And Why not have a nice that whole line? That I want to see more of that line of Kapanen, Heineman, and Barry Burley. I want to see more of that line. It looked damn good. I liked what I saw of it. And then um, who would be the other guy? Would be Beck, basically. And so you got to move on from four players, 3 to 4 players. And I say if there's, I think there'll be teams lining up for a guy like Barron because he is going to be better. Don't kid yourself. It's just that we've got guys that are better than him, but he's going to be good for someone else. So I would say you can catch half decent talent for him, believe it or not. I think because he was a first rounder, I think you can stand, around that. But I wouldn't be that adamant. I think you just got to move. Hughes will know what to do. But I really, really do believe it's time. Dvorak, Anderson, Galley, if you can move them on, do it. Even if you got to take Anderson and Galley and take half of their contract or throw in a couple of drafts to do it, do it. Because, we had the rumorville, which I don't like to feed into, of a couple of reporters saying, because Johnny Gaudreau situation that they were negotiating with Montreal still on the phones with interest in Anderson and Galley. If they want them, make a deal. You might want to throw in Barron. Maybe you put 4 players there if they're willing to do so. Go for it. But you might have to pay half of Anderson and Galley's contracts to make the deal work. There's ways of doing it, and I'm sure Hughes is smart enough. But for me, I want to see Kapanen. I want to see Beck. And if Heineman shows us more of what we saw the other night, because it looks to me like the chemistry between Kapanen and Heineman, I would not mess with that. That looks awesome. I even say Barry Burley. The three of them just look that good together. However, you got to have Beck in there too. So those 4 guys need to make the team. Well, definitely Kapanen and Beck first. And then, you can look at Heineman and Barry Burley. I would take all 4 of them in. I would figure a way to get that done because you can't move on from Pezzetta can be that rotating player like he is now. And that's how I would roll with it. That's my thoughts, and I think we know how the defense is chalked up. I have no problem in seeing all 3 players possibly be in the Habs of Hudson, Mayu, and Reinbacher if they chose to. And this is the time to do it. Stop talking about us being in a wild card battle. It's great to talk positive, but let's be realistic. This team is not going to be battling for a wild card spot. There's teams that are further ahead in their rebuild, and this is the time we're going into our 4th year. So let's stop holding the kids back and let them make the mistakes. And yes, we'll be more competitive, no doubt about it. But let's stop holding the talent back. That we've got more talented kids than some of these veterans, and it's time to show it. So you've seen it here at Center Heist. Tell me your thoughts. That's my thoughts. I just wanted to put it in. I was going to do an extra tape, but I think I got it into this tape. Thank you for watching. Leave your comments. Keep it respectful. Tell me what you think. But those are my thoughts of what I see happening in Montreal right now. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting ride. I do, however, think the projection is overblown by a lot of the reporters of where the Habs will be. There's teams that are ahead of us. Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, Jersey. They're all ahead of us. Let's make no mistake about it. Thank you for watching. You've seen it here at Center Ice Productions. God bless you. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm looking forward to the Leafs matchup Thursday. God bless.